In Zechariah chapter 7, we see the Lord rebuking the people, calling out their superficial fasting. They did these things, and it says in verse 5, "When you fasted and mourned in the 5th and 7th months, these 70 years, was it actually for me that you fasted?" He called them to examine their motives because they were not doing it for the Lord. And what does the Lord require instead? He tells them what true worship looks like. Starting in verse 9. "Thus has Yahweh of hosts said, judge with true justice, and show loving kindness and compassion each to his brother. And do not oppress the widow or the orphan, the sojourner or the afflicted. And do not devise evil in your hearts against one another." Sadly, we see the response of the people in the past. But they refused to give heed and turned a stubborn shoulder and dulled their ears from hearing. And they made their hearts diamond hard, not just hard, but diamond hard, so that they could not hear the law and the words which Yahweh of hosts had sent by his Spirit, by the hand of the former prophets. Therefore great wrath came from Yahweh of hosts. And at the time, and it happened that just as he called and they would not listen, so they called and I would not listen, says Yahweh of hosts. What a sad time that would be when we do call out to the Lord and he does not answer. Now, the Family Worship Bible Guide for today, it's very good points. I'll read point number 1. God's answer to the question of fasting illustrates the frequent biblical warning that performing perfunctory religious rituals without a genuine heart for the Lord never pleases him. God is never satisfied with religion without devotion. These fasts commemorating the captivity were of their own devising and were conducted without any thought toward God. Whatever their motive, it was not a service being rendered to God. It is all too easy to be taken up with the liturgical calendar or even routine services and assume that the mere exercise or observance pleases the Lord. Those that worship God must do so with genuine hearts, in spirit and truth. Parentheses. And God looks through the rituals right to the heart. Then point number 2. To obey is better than sacrifice, from 1 Samuel 15:22. There's a good song by Keith Green on that. You should look it up. To obey is better than sacrifice. Rather than the multiplication of offerings, God has revealed what is good, Micah 6:6-8. God's explanation that a captivity could have been averted if the people had obeyed the prophets and behaved righteously teaches the same truth. It is obedience to God that truly affirms love for him, 1 John 5:3. Once we find acceptance with God in Christ, we please him when we trust and obey him.